Hey there, Pencil Prof back at you. And we're dealing with something everybody deals with, and that is, how do I get started with my essay? It's due tomorrow, it's due in a week. I don't know where to begin. We're going to tackle that today. So, what's the first step? You might be thinking, I know, it's to find out how many pages this thing's got to be. Fair, but that's not actually the first step. The first step to writing an essay is figuring out what it is that you want to say about the subject. Now, I say subject or topic, and you're thinking, well, I already have that. My teacher gave me a list. I've got 4 topics to choose from, and I've already picked one. So what more do I need to know? How do I get started? Well, the subject is just the subject. When I say find out what it is you want to say in your essay, what I mean is, what do you want to say about the subject? You need to know what it is you want to say before you can say it. The last thing you want to do as a student or a writer of any kind is to sit down and go, well, let me just start typing, and I'll just sort of figure it out as I go. I promise you, if you do that, you will lose your reader within a paragraph, and more likely you'll lose yourself within a paragraph, which will land you where we all land in those circumstances, which is completely frustrated and even more lost than we were. And that's not what you want. You want to be able to sit down and comfortably get from point A to point S, and S would be the completed essay. How do you get to that in the quickest way possible? You need to do a lot of the writing before you do the writing. I tell students all the time, hey, what is it you want to say? What's your point? What interesting thing are you going to tell me about Hamlet, for example? And it's amazing how often the student in question doesn't know the answer to that. They go back and forth, they round and round, and they don't know. So that's usually a really easy place to stop with that student and say, okay, time out. The reason you're so frustrated is you really have no clue what it is you want to say. You haven't thought deeply enough about your subject. You don't know it well enough to write about it. Now, that doesn't mean you have to know everything. You have to be an expert, and that your essay better be right. It better be the right answer. That's wrong thinking also. But you at least need to know what you plan to say. So before you start writing, figure it out. Sit down and say, all right, is Hamlet crazy or not? Answer that question. And then say, all right, well, how am I going to prove that Hamlet's crazy, or how am I going to prove that he's not crazy? And we'll get into those things in other videos, how to make those arguments, not specifically about Hamlet, but how to make any argument. But this very brief video is just to hammer the point home that writing is a transaction between you and the reader. The reader needs to feel some kind of way when they're done reading your essay. They should feel like they've gotten something out of it, right? They should feel that it was worthwhile to read. And really, that's what an essay is. It's your thoughts about something on paper or on a screen. It's your mind laid there for someone to read, your thoughts. So you got to have some thoughts, right? You got to have some thoughts about it. So I tell my students, you may wait till the last minute to write your paper. And that's not ideal, but it's not terrible, as long as you haven't waited until the last minute to think about what you want to say in your paper. It starts with your thinking. Writing is thinking on paper. Clear writing is clear thinking, then put onto paper or put on a screen. So think about what you want to write. Think about what you want to communicate. That's where you start. And if you haven't done that, don't start writing.